Welcome to the podcast, Monsters. I'm your host, Doug Bartlett, a serial entrepreneur, founder and owner of Bartlett Roofing. If you have a mind for business or you want to grow, we are the podcast for you. Welcome to the podcast, Monsters. Glad you're here with us today. If you haven't already, smash that like and subscribe button. Pass us along, get the word out for us. Really appreciate that. Today, back here with Ashlyn Bartlett. We are here to talk about how to start the new year off right. Ashlyn, we've kind of covered your story a little bit about us and who you are, but let's dive right in. What is it? What do you think it means to start the year off right?
I think it's that clean slate that everyone looks for with the new year. It's funny because like a couple weeks doesn't really make a difference whether you set a goal in December or in January, right? You're actually just like putting it off. But I think it's been so conditioned through societal norms that is a clean slate and it's a new year. And so I feel like everybody feels like they can kind of shed their skin a little bit and kind of put the last year to rest and whatever happened during that year, whether it was positive or negative, and are able to say, okay, clean slate, let's start new. And, whatever I did back then, I'll learn from it and move forward, but I get a new opportunity. And so that, I think societally, like I said, it's been pushed that's what people kind of think.
I started last year off with the idea of losing a bunch of weight. And so I ended up losing right around 90 pounds as part of, that was my New Year's resolution that I started on January 2nd. And I think that, if you just set your mind to something, if you decide that you're going to do it, and then you really set your mind to something, that you're much more powerful than you think you are, because 90 pounds didn't come off in a day. It took quite a while for me to lose that weight. It's just about discipline with everything that went in my mouth, because I actually didn't exercise like really at all year long. It was just about what I ate.
Eating habits are important.
Changing those eating habits. And one of the things that like comes to mind for that, for me for that is that people overestimate what they can do in a day, and they're always feeling behind. I didn't get enough done, But you underestimate, at least most people do, they underestimate what they can do in a year. Do you have any situation like that where that's been the case with you?
Yeah, I mean, for one, I think I definitely struggle with overcommitting, like on a daily and weekly basis, because I like to have my hands in everything, and I like to be involved, and I like to be the person that can help anyone out. And so I definitely struggle from that, like, overestimating what you can do in a day type of a mindset for sure. But last year, beginning of 2021, I kind of did the same thing. I literally wrote down my intentions for the year in a notebook that I kept throughout the entire year. And I was reviewing that recently as we're coming up on the end of the year and the new year. And I was like, dang, like I accomplished these. And so I think there's something really powerful about putting pen to paper and being able to see what you're talking about or thinking about and actually see it written down. But then on top of that, it can't just be something that you write down and forget about, right? You've got to be constantly striving, towards that goal every single day. And so, like you said, with the weight loss, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a consistent effort daily to get you to that point.
Right. Yeah, I know that for me, kind of writing it down is important, but what's actually works best for me is pictures. It's the same concept, a dream board, pictures of myself when I was thinner, pictures of the things I want to accomplish in work. A couple of years ago, like 4 years ago, I made a dream board with a fleet of trucks, for the business, and a travel sign, and pictures of some destinations, and some stuff about healthy relationships, and about fitness, and about art, since I'm an artist also. And it took a while to achieve all of those goals, building the business up and really making it happen. But I looked at it, a couple of months ago and realized I really need a new dream board, because I have now achieved every single one of those goals. That's how important those are, because it was hung up by my desk for years, where every day when I sat down at my desk, I'd see that and be like, dang, I gotta work on this. This is why I'm doing this. And so I'm setting some new New Year's resolutions for myself, to some new goals, and I need to make a new dream board to show that. So what are you doing specifically that you think is going to start your new year off right?
Well, to your point about the dream boards, and some people call them vision boards, that's something that I've always felt is super profound. like I said, like writing something down is one thing, but having to be constantly reminded of those goals is really where it's the most powerful. And it's something I do with every single person that comes onto my team. And I've watched my team grow specifically over the last 2 years, from a one-man band to, multiple people on my team, whether it's in HR, marketing, recruiting, admin, whatever. And every single time I have them do a dream board. And the funny thing is like, I'm not super keeping them accountable to that, because a lot of the times it's like their ideal self, right? It's their personal goals. We keep accountability on their work metrics and their goals weekly and their one-on-ones. But the cool thing is I've had literally every single person that has ever done a dream board on my team accomplished at least one, if not multiple, of the goals on their dream board in a shorter time span than what they expected. So I had a couple of the guys that were recruiters get brand new vehicles, new trucks. One of them bought a BMW this year. My HR admin got a brand new Jeep Grand Cherokee that was completely customized. One of our other guys, Nick, our marketing guy, he paid off all of his debt, and that was like his biggest goal. And so I think there's something really powerful about seeing it and being reminded of it. We talked about this in a previous podcast, but that visualization aspect is so important to keep you motivated. For me personally, I'm probably in your boat right now. I feel like I've accomplished some of the big goals that I've been striving for over the past couple of years. So it's time to do like an after action report, self-assess, and set new goals, right?
Yeah, I think that your after action report, that's kind of a good point that we could hit on here, is that really you need to take the time to celebrate your achievements, right? And recognize that you have actually achieved something that you had set your mind to, that a year ago or 2 years ago, or maybe if it's a longer term goal, maybe it was 5 or 10 years ago, but it's something that you set your mind to and you started working toward, and then you achieved it. And we tend to move past those achievements without giving ourselves a pat on the back and recognizing that, hey, this is something that I've been striving for, and this is something that I was passionate about, and I worked hard for it every single day. And then I got there, and all I did was set new goals, and I didn't recognize the positive reinforcement that I need for the fact that I've achieved this goal, and it's amazing that I did it.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a huge part of it. We were at our Bartlett Roofing Leadership Summit in the beginning of 2021, and our leadership coach, Brenda Lee, talked about the fact that as individuals, we don't ever recognize each other. So as leaders, we have to do that with our people. Because as an individual, everybody's heard the term, like, you're going to be your own worst critic. And so I think a lot of the times we look at our accomplishments as like, okay, I got it done finally. Like, how can I keep moving forward? Which is a good mindset, because if you're not growing, you're dying, right? Like, you got to keep moving forward, and you got to keep getting better to get that total, complete, like, actualized version of yourself, right? And you're going to keep striving for that, and that's going to keep compounding as you get better as an individual. So the concept is you're never going to reach that, because you're going to constantly be bettering that person.
Yeah, it constantly evolves.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's the biggest thing to recognize in any relationship, whether it's a professional relationship, a personal relationship, is that most of us as individuals don't do a good job of recognizing ourselves, right? And so knowing that as an individual, I need to reestablish that, I have accomplished big goals. And you've accomplished big goals, and we've seen other people accomplish really big goals. Like, go out to dinner, go celebrate, go party, whatever it is that you do to celebrate, whether it's staying at home and having a movie night or whatever it is, but you need to be able to say, hey, I accomplished something and I'm proud of myself, right? And if you don't do that, and you're moving towards that next goal, it's hard to stay motivated because you didn't get that reward almost. Like, it reminds me of being a parent. There's positive and negative reinforcement with everything that you do.
Yeah, negative reinforcement happens by itself.
Yeah.
You don't have to look for that.
Yeah, exactly, because you're just constantly playing that in your head, right?
Yeah.
But that positive reinforcement, I think, is something even grown adults completely miss the boat on.
Yeah. And if you're a leader in a company, or a company owner, or even a outside salesperson or whatever, or just in general, most of us don't get enough recognition. And I know I'm guilty of not giving enough recognition, even though I try to instill that in our company culture. I still don't feel like that I do a good enough job at that. But the fact is that I also have to learn to recognize myself as being proud of my own achievements instead of just playing them down and saying there's more to do. There's more to do.
There's a quote that I wrote down probably like 3 years ago on a chalkboard at my apartment before I bought my house that said, "Don't stop until you're proud of yourself." I can't remember where I heard that from, but it's so profound to me because we only know what we're truly capable of.
So are you proud of yourself?
I am. Honestly, like I am, and I'm not trying to be egotistical or anything, but it's something, it's took me a lot to get there.
Right.
A lot of self-doubt, a lot of self-confidence issues, but I am proud of myself, and I'm proud to say that I'm proud of myself.
Yeah, I think a lot of people never get to the point where they feel like they're proud of themselves because they have the negative tape on loop in their brain, and so they never feel like they're good enough. They never feel like they're living up to everybody's expectations. They never feel like they're living up to their own expectations. They're letting themselves down. And so one of the things I want to talk about is how we can get out of that cycle of that negative loop and what you can do. What are some actual steps that you can take to move past that? And I think the first thing that I would say is you only fail when you quit. If you're tired of failing, stop quitting.
Oof.
I heard that from Tim's story, but yeah, that was a very impactful one. If you're tired of failing, stop quitting. And I took that home with the weight loss. That was like, okay, yeah, I only quit when I quit. I can have a mess up here and there, but I only quit when I quit. And so if I have a mess up, I have a bad meal or a bad day or a bad week or even a bad month, that doesn't mean I've quit. And you can get back on it and stay focused again. So having the patience to realize that bigger goals take time is really important. And so don't think that you can do it in a day, because you can't. You can't build a big company. You can't experience success. You can't change your inner human being. You can't change that loop in one day. It doesn't happen that way. It's a habit that you have to create. So what's a healthy habit that you've created for yourself to reinforce your positive mindset and take action and get things done in your life?
Something that I know that's been super powerful for me is just getting in a better routine in general. I have a little one, and so that's sometimes a challenge, but I think I make that excuse, right? So having a consistent morning routine and evening routine and having that be a daily habit, it's that consistency that helps, right? And I see it in myself, and then I see how it affects my son too. But that consistency, I think, is so key. And to your point about the weight loss, same thing there. You can have a bad morning or eat a crappy meal, a greasy cheeseburger or whatever, but that doesn't mean it's over. Yeah. That doesn't mean you don't just abandon it altogether.
Yeah, I lost a bunch of weight, but I've kind of failed in the last few months, and I put a little bit of that weight back on, not a ton, but a little bit. And, literally this morning I was like, okay, I only fail if I quit. And so I'm not a quitter, so I'm getting back on it. So today, sitting on my desk, I have a bag of, sugar-free jerky to snack on. So I'm back on that protein diet, and ordered a salad with some chicken for lunch, getting back after it. One of the things I think that helps us, though, is being patient, but also striving through every day to get as much done as we can, and the cumulative effect of that. One of the things that's helped me with that and understand how to practically implement that, and something we're implementing in the entire company right now, is the book, The 12-Week Year. We've been working on that for the last 12 weeks, well, 11 weeks now. What do you think of that book and that process?
I love the book. I think that it's something that the concept of it we've kind of talked about, not specifically like a 12-week year, but we always have talked about reverse engineering your goals to make them more digestible, right? And so, for example, in my personal life, one of my biggest goals over the last probably 3-4 years is to buy a house, right? And that's a big thing to accomplish. I mean, that's a credit, down payment, making sure you find the right house, all of that stuff you got to get it all lined up. But if you take that back, 4 years ago, and I make it more digestible, which is like pay off your credit cards this month, save an extra couple $100, don't go out to eat more than X amount. That's more digestible than saying I need to have $20,000 for a down payment and find a home that is under $400K in Boise, which is impossible, right? So it's breaking down so it's more digestible. And that's essentially, to me, the biggest thing about the 12-week year is I'm able to say, this is my year goal. I'm going to break it down into quarters, right? And then we're going to really focus for the next 12 to 13 weeks, right, on these things that I can actively change and affect.
Yeah. I really like that book, and shout out to Kayla for turning me onto that book. The premise is that you set some goals, and you strive for those goals for the next 12 weeks. And then you take a week to reassess, celebrate your successes that you've had in those 12 weeks, and set new 12-week goals, because 52 weeks divided by 4, 13. So it's 12 weeks on, 1 week of celebration and readjusting and setting new goals. And then from there, you're out rocking again. And the beauty of it is that it keeps you on task. You got 12 weeks where you're focused. There's something you're going after. And so instead of thinking, well, I set a goal, it's a year goal, maybe I want to lose another 70 pounds. Well, that's a great goal. But what could I do in the next 12 weeks? And now that makes it much more focused. Like, well, okay, dang, if I say a year, that's a long time. I feel like I can kind of get off to a slow start, and maybe I quit. Maybe I didn't have as much focus. But if I'm like, okay, I got to get this done in 12 weeks, how am I going to break that down? How am I going to make that happen?
It makes it a little bit more of a prioritization. Even like we talk about this with sales reps too, you know, especially when they're first getting started, they're drinking from a fire hose. There's a lot to learn, especially if they've never done door to door, if they've never worked with insurance carriers. And so something our sales leaders have always done is broken it down from like, you need this many approvals, right? This many jobs approved by a carrier, and they take that to contracts, and then they take that to homeowners talked to. And that's the thing that you can actively affect, is how many doors do you knock on and how many people you talk to. Everything else will come with the conversion percentage, right? But you can actively work on talking to 5 homeowners a day. If you do that, then you're good consistently.
Yeah, it's that focus every day toward that longer term, midterm goal, 12 weeks, and then redoing that again and again. If I look at it from a weight loss standpoint, you know, if one of your New Year's resolutions is to lose weight, well, if I look at it and say, hey, if I can lose 2 pounds a week, 12 weeks from now, I've lost 24 pounds. And 1 year from now, if I stay on it, I've lost 92 pounds.
Which you did this last year.
Yeah.
So it's possible.
Yeah, it's crazy. And you just have to like take it down to that situation where you're like, okay, this is something that I'm actually going to do. I'm going to hold myself accountable on a weekly basis toward a 12-week goal. During that 1 week, hey, if you need to, go off the diet for 1 week. You're not failing because you haven't quit. You're just celebrating the success of where you're at so far. You're reassessing, setting new goals, and going forward again.
For some reason, this quote came to my head. One of my guys, Cody, said this a while back, and I don't know where he got it from. But I think sometimes we set goals because we're wanting to like really just be the best versions of ourselves. But when you don't reverse engineer it, like I said, it's hard to be appetizable. But if you look at other people, right, and you look at, you know, not just your own personal bubble, but the people that are surrounding you, and then even past that, plenty of people have lost more than 100 pounds in a year, right? Yeah. Plenty of people have bought a house in a couple years. Plenty of people have sold 20 roof jobs in a month. Like, it's possible. And so the quote is, what's possible for one is possible for many.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. You know, while you were saying that, you know, we're talking about 12 weeks and breaking it down. You know, everybody's heard this, I think. But, you know, how do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time. Yep. Right? I've heard that from you.
You know, yeah, you take a bite today, you take another bite tomorrow, and eventually, you know, you've eaten the whole elephant. And it looks impossible, but if you take it one bite at a time, you strive for it every day, then that New Year's resolution, whatever it is you're trying to change, it can change your future.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I've watched it happen, like I said, in my own personal life and in others' lives. And I think that focus and consistency is the biggest part of goals, is focusing on what you're trying to accomplish every single day, the marginal gain, right? 1% better, and then being consistent with your efforts.
Yeah, just keeping after it. One of the resolutions that I'm setting for myself this year, besides additional weight loss, is during the course of the next year, I want to get my private pilot's license. Something I've talked about for my whole life. My dad flew when I was a kid. I worked for a crop duster when I was a teenager. And the reason I want to is because I'm sick and tired of the airports right now. Gotten bumped twice in the last 2 weeks and had to overnight where I didn't want to be. But how nice would it be to pull up to a hangar and jump in a plane and fly where we want to go? And so there's this twin-engine turboprop Cessna that I want to get. And I want to be able to just jump in that thing and fly out to our different offices, fly to different conferences, fly to vacations, seats like I think 9 people, and I want to be able to just jump in that thing and fly it myself. So how am I going to get there? Well, I'm not going to get, you know, I mean, that's an expensive airplane. It's, you know, in the $1 to $2 million range. But I'm going to get there one bite at a time. First, I got to go out and learn to fly. I'm going to start saving money toward it. And so I don't expect that to happen in the next 12 months. So that's not a New Year's resolution as much as learning to fly is. But getting the plane is about a year and a half from now. Well, that's when I'm going to buy that plane.
Well, to that point, like you've broken it down to where like the thing that you can actionably change is getting your license and getting the flight hours, right? So that maybe the $2 million plane with the pilot's license is like, man, that's a while out. But you know what? You can go sign up for flying lessons right now.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to go learn to fly, start practicing, maybe get a smaller aircraft that I can fly in the meantime, and get a lot of practice in. And then when it's time for that twin engine turboprop, great plane. I think it flies like 350, 360 miles an hour, something like that. I'll be able to, head to Mexico if I want to and be there in a reasonable period of time instead of having to deal with the nightmare of the airlines that we have to deal with right now.
Yeah, I think everybody's kind of over it.
Yeah. When we're all saying let's drive instead of fly, then that's a good sign.
Exactly.
Good. What would you tell people out there if they really want to start their new year off right?
I think the first thing first is you have to reevaluate where you were at over the last 12 months. So that after action report, I think, is so key. Like you said, celebrate your successes and your wins and make sure you recognize yourself, but also just evaluating, okay, what did I accomplish? What did I not accomplish? What did I do right? What can I work on? And really understanding your current state is probably number one. And then for me, I love journaling and writing things down. So I always write notes about, like I said, the ideal, like actualized version of myself in 12 months. What's that going to be? And then, like I said, breaking that down to be more digestible. So for example, this last year we recruited like 345 people to Bartlett, which is an insane number. And I very vividly remember telling you I felt like that was impossible. Yeah. Clearly it wasn't, because we did it, right? And so what we do is we break that down by month and then by week, right? So it's like, how many do we need in a month? How many do we need in a week? And okay, well, it's not that bad. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Shout out to Ashlyn and her team, recruiting rock stars. It's been a huge key to our growth as a company. But yeah, you're right. We talked about that early in the year and it was like, dang, that sounds impossible. But when we broke it down to actionable steps, we couldn't do that in a day or a week or a month, but we did it in a year.
And you make consistent efforts towards the goal. That's the biggest thing, right?
Yeah. And how many times did we have to tweak something along the way, right?
A billion times. Like I couldn't even count.
Yeah. And so that's something we're going to talk about, I think, in a future podcast is just like pivoting, as a business owner and in a business, if you're, a entrepreneur instead of an entrepreneur, understanding how to take ownership of something and pivot when you need to. And I think that's a big part of goals is that you also have to look at it and say, how am I going to start this new year off right? Well, I have certain goals. But, if I'm on a diet, well, maybe you find out 12 weeks in that particular diet isn't working for you. You need to do more research into insulin levels in your body and what type of body type you are, or maybe you need to take, some supplements to help the biome of your body to digest things better. Whatever it is, there's tweaks that can happen along the way to help you move yourself toward that goal. And so be willing to pivot, set great goals, break them down into the 12 to 13 week period. Like, I'd highly recommend reading that book, 12-Week Year, and then be willing to pivot as you learn and go through the process. And if you do that, a year from now, you're going to have outstanding success.
I think that's one thing a lot of people struggle with because their minds are so set on this one outcome, right? I know we've talked about this a little bit before, that they're almost unwilling to adapt and change when things change. And they're like, no, this should work. I can do this. And that's great that you have that motivation. But if you're not adaptable, you're going to try to shove a square peg in a round hole. It's just not going to work.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to fail forward, right? So if you are stepping out and you're saying, I've got this big goal, I'm going to go for it, whatever it is, whether it's personal, business, your physical, whatever it is, set the goal, work toward it, and then reassess. Take that 1 week and reassess. Well, I didn't hit 24 pounds in the first 12 weeks. I only hit 16. That's okay. You got a long ways toward the goal. You're still looking at, 65 pounds in the year. That's still huge. Stay after it. Make a small tweak. Maybe it gets to be 24 in the second quarter. You've still moved significantly toward the goal. If it's in business, hey, we only hired, 20 people and we needed to hire 40. That's okay. You got higher, you've got a bigger head count. There's more people out there working. Pivot something. Change the way that your ad is worded. Change the way that you do your interview process. What are the what kind of changes, if somebody's trying to grow a business and they're recruiting, what are some things that you would recommend for them that could help them in a 12-week period?
Oh my gosh. I mean, there's probably a billion things that come to mind right off the gate, but ad copy is huge. And like brand awareness on job boards and socials is going to be a big deal as well, especially in the job marketplace right now, where we're in kind of a situation where the employee is the one who has the power versus the employer. Yep. Versus in 2020 with the pandemic, it was kind of the reverse situation. And so it's been really interesting to navigate, but it's also been really fun because you've got to make changes on the fly and try new things and be okay with it. And I definitely struggled with that. The beginning to middle of the year, I was struggling with making changes on things.
Right.
A lot of it because I was nervous about how it was going to affect things long-term negatively versus just trying it out. And like you said, failing forward and learning from your mistakes.
Yeah. And so those are all things that you can make tweaks along the way to hit those 12-week goals, to hit those 1-year goals, and really change your life. So, Ashlyn, do you have anything you would want to wrap this up with?
I just think the biggest thing is like understanding that as long as you're moving the needle, as long as you're getting better every single day, you're not truly failing. Like you said, the only time that you fail is when you quit, right? And so for example, in the weight loss thing where you were like, well, I only lost, hypothetically, you only lost 16 instead of 24. Well, you still lost 16 pounds. That's still a big deal. And I think that's something that I've seen internally at Bartlett we've been good at is setting really high goals that almost seem unachievable, but then like either achieving it or getting really close. And guess what? Nobody's mad that we made it 99% of the way because we knew it was a stretch goal. So don't be so hard on yourself that you're like killing your motivation.
Yeah, if you've moved forward, you haven't failed. You've just taken steps forward, right? Yeah. It may not hit the exact goal on the exact date, but you've taken steps forward. It just means that your goal is going to take a little bit longer than you thought it was going to. And so that, for me, just brings back, you can overestimate the day, but you're going to underestimate your year. You're very powerful if you take steps every day and you have patience and work toward those goals. So that's my takeaway for today is have patience, work toward your goals every single day.
Awesome. Thank you guys for joining us. Like Doug said, like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you later, monsters.
Make sure you hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss out on becoming a monster.